Hey guys, this time I'm going to show you how to do the flip backwards tessellation. This one ends up having this cool sort of flip-flop backwards effect when we trace it. As always, you're going to want to have the instructions, whether it's digital or printed, to look at. You're going to want to have some scissors, some tape, a pencil, and then your template. This one's going to be a square. Remember, as always, I recommend getting a thicker paper for your template. You can use just regular paper like I am, but if you have something thicker, it's going to make life easier. Maybe cardstock, even old scrapbook paper, it's nice. All right, so let's get going. So the first thing we want to do is cut out a design from one edge. I'm going to go from this bottom edge. Remember, we want our designs to come from the corners. Let's say I want some jaggedy pieces and down to the corner. So corner to corner. Then I want to cut it out, just like always. Remember, one solid cut. It is okay if you don't follow your line exact, because it's just going to be a template that we're going to trace on later. All the way to the corner. Okay, so what makes this template cool is we're going to flip it backwards. So instead of just sliding it up like some of the other ones, we are going to slide it up and flip it backwards. So you see how the bump was on this side, now it's on that side. So let's go ahead and do that. Line up the corners and tape it down. Remember, line up those corners as precisely as you can. Remember, if any tape goes past the edge, cut it off, don't fold it over. So we need that exact paper edge. There we go. Now we're going to do the same thing on one of the opposite sides. Could be this side, could be that side, does not matter. So create your design. I think I'm going to keep it kind of simple. All the way to the corner. Cut. Okay. Now let's get it to fit back in place. There we go, that way. Now I'm going to slide it up, flip it over. I always like to double check this one, especially if my design's more simple like this. There isn't any distinguishing features like the point or bumps of this one. Make sure, does it fit down below anymore? No, it doesn't. That means it is flipped backwards. Perfect. So let's tape this down. This thinner piece is going to be a little bit harder for me to tape. Line up the corners. There we go. I'm going to have to trim a lot of tape off of this one. That's okay. Tape it down. Got a little tape there. Oops. And a little tape over here. There we go. Okay, so we got our template now. So for this, we're going to need our paper to trace out our design on, just like always. Now for this one, the tracing is going to go a little bit different. Let's start off same as always. Go center of your paper and do one regular trace first. I think I'm going to go like that. Why not? Take your time, trace around it, pencil straight up and down. Get to all your little edges. Get every little bump and groove. Make sure your template does not move. Ha, that rhymed. Bumped and grooved and does not move. Ha. Trace around it all the way back to the beginning. And boom. Okay, so we have one. Now what's weird about this template is since we flip things backwards, you're not just going to be able to slide things around and find its perfect match. You're going to have to flip your template backwards at some point to get things to line up. Aha, see how this edge now lines up? Whereas if it was normal, how I just traced it, it wouldn't fit there. But if I flip it backwards, now it does. So take your time, try things forward, try things backwards, make sure they fit perfect before you trace. Now I'll work my way around, trace the entire thing, and we'll talk when I finish. Okay, so I finished tracing. Now, one thing I noticed when I was doing this design, tracing it out, was I had a really hard time lining up these edges because there was nothing really to distinguish it, to make it different between one way and back. It's just some tiny little details on how I curved those mountains. Whereas these edges were much easier to line up because that point made it really obvious if things were lined up or not. So I had a bit of challenge when I was trying to line up these sort of edges here. So my advice would be to make sure when you're cutting out your edges for this, make sure there's something that really stands out in your cut. Don't just make it a really repetitive line like I did there. It still works, it's definitely just more challenging. So you can see how that one kind of flows across the page going forwards and backwards. Have fun trying out the flip backwards tessellation.